Hi folks, this is the first edition of Tilting a Windmill's Right Talk for 2015. It's been quite a few weeks now since I published something on this YouTube channel, and there's a lot of reasons for that. I've been extremely busy. I've been involved in dinners for Christmas time and around the holidays, family issues, just trying to catch up with myself. And I also put a lot of thought into what direction I wanted to go with these broadcasts and with my my community activism and my outreach, I guess you'd say, to you folks, trying to tie things together as I see them and give you a layman's view of what's going on in southern Nevada, what's going on in Pahrump and Nye County. As you know, those who've watched me or know me, I attend a lot of meetings, I read a lot, I spend a lot of time talking to people, and I try to come across when I write something or, in this case, put it on video, how I see things. I'm not trying to sell a newspaper here, I'm not trying to become a CNN or anything like that. My focus is on bringing you my take on what is happening in the valley here. I even put an agenda together today. I'm getting more sophisticated in this because I haven't had any experience in the past, as you guys know, in broadcasting anything. And so it helps me to keep a train of thought. So you're going to see me referring to these notes. So where are we? It's into the new year. We're almost halfway through the first month. And as many of you already know, and those that aren't must have been hiding under a rock, the town board has officially gone away. It's been gone now for about a week. The county is now overseeing the operations. We haven't crashed and burned. There's been no major catastrophe. When I looked out, the sun came up today. There's no storm, clouds on the ground. None of the stuff the naysayers would say was going to happen has transpired. And as many of us thought, and I've written in the past, the county decided to terminate the agreements. I guess they didn't have an agreement. They didn't have an agreement with her, but the former town manager, Susan Holochak, was not taken on board or given a job or anything like that. She was sent on her way with best wishes, and that all took place up in Tonopah at the last county commissioners meeting, which I was up at. I drove up there just to see what it was like to go to a meeting up there. I found it quite interesting, a whole different set of faces, but pretty much the same problems, same issues came up, planning issues, issues with how to do this and how to do that. One of the things I found interesting was how the county is really tightening up the budget right now. And one example was they tried to get funding up there in that neck of the woods. They have juvenile problems just like we do down here in the south end of the county, and they wanted to hire a full-time juvenile counselor or somebody. I think he had already been working there in the past, but was not anymore. And they said they needed a need for it, and the guy came before the county commissioners, and it really didn't even get off to anywhere. I mean, the agenda item just sort of died right in its tracks because as the gentleman was giving his spiel, he even admitted, well, there's no funding. And that's the state of the matter in our county right now, is there's just no funding. We need to shrink the government up even more than it has been. And there's a lot of ways we can do that. And I'll go into those a little bit further in a little while. The big issue that has popped up in southern Nye County here right now is water. Of course, I talked about water and wrote about water last year and the year before and the year before that. And even though some very well-intended utility owners in the valley here contended that, well, we have plenty of water, the aquifer has been recharging, and in fact, artesian wells are bubbling water back out of the ground like they haven't done in years. The fact remains that we do have a serious water problem here. I mean, you can't draw more water out of a glass than what it holds, and expect to just keep drinking, and it gets empty. And unfortunately, out on the south end of Pahrump here, some families started raising hell about, I guess it's been about a week, 10 days ago now, because guess what? Just as we forecast, as of all of us that have been warning, their wells went dry. And one gentleman that has been very outspoken about it, because he already re-drilled his well once, and now the water's back down again. And he's sucking air. There was another gentleman that I ran into. I don't know if I've brought this up in the past, but I'm one of the founding members of the Private Well Owners Association that was formed here in Pahrump. It came about by a bunch of people that were very well informed. John Bosca, you might have heard that name before. Frank Mazur. I can't pronounce Frank's last name. Forgive me, Frank, if you watch. But anyway, Frank and myself and a few other people got together and had a meeting, and we thought, you know what, if we don't do something to protect our private wells, the way the political storms are rising and the emphasis of people in power here, I guess is what I could call them, is that they were going to make a grab for our private wells, and they did. But now that this has hit the airwaves, we're getting a conciliatory message out of Carson City and Jason King's, the state water engineer's office, where we really don't want to take your water away from you. We really want to, what we're really concerned about is making sure you have water. Well, in the case of myself and a lot of other people here, when we moved here, we thought we had over 2 acres of water, 2 acre-feet of water to use each year on our property. And because of that, we put landscaping in, we grew fruit trees. I have over 20 fruit trees on my property. I have pine trees all the way around it, blocking the wind, because we have heavy winds here, and it keeps down the allergies that I come down with when the wind's blowing. And it makes your property look better than just being out in the middle of the desert. And so the thought of the threat of having to reduce my water usage, not that my wife and I and our dogs are using as much water personally, but it was a complete slap in the face, because I had checked with the county, with the town, with the real estate agent, and with the Chamber of Commerce, and was assured, like many of you watching this, that, oh yeah, we have so much water, this aquifer is the largest aquifer in the world. No, not quite. I think the claim was it's the 3rd largest aquifer in the United States. Well, guess what? That 3rd largest aquifer turned out to be a dry hole, if you really want to look at it, because we don't have all that water, and in fact it's dropping. And right now the state water engineers are saying that we have about 20,000 acre-feet of water to use. Now, an acre-foot is just exactly what it is. You take a foot of water that covers the whole acre, of the space in an acre, and now you've got an acre-foot of water. And that water has been dropping. Some wells have been dropping 2 feet a year. I mentioned the people out there. Now, thank God, my well isn't as bad a shape as I thought it might be, because I had a guy come over that did what's called a static well check, and I highly recommended this to all of you out there that have private wells. And what it amounted to do, and was going out where the well was at, taking a wrench and opening up this little plug that was on the top of the wellhead, and he dropped a line down in there that is attached to, I guess, electronically, because when it hit water, it starts, buzzer starts going off. And so he dropped it and dropped it and dropped it, and finally at 83.5 feet was where my the water level is in my well. Now, I believe I'm sitting at about 140, 145 feet deep for my well, but this is something we all need to find out. And there are records, whoever drilled your well, the person that drilled my well, they have a well log, and they've kept records of how deep they drilled and all of that, and I've got to find that out for myself. But if it is about 140 feet, then I've got roughly 56.5 feet of water depth at where my well is at. But if it keeps dropping, and if it were to speed up, if I lost, say, 2 feet a year, then 3 feet a year, whatever, you can see what the problem is, because in a matter of 15 years you don't have any water, and it might even be more rapid than that, depending on how much they build out the valley here. So that is a major, major, major issue, and I'm going to get back to that in a little while. One of the things, as I was told you, I did since the last broadcast, and is that I thought, where do I fit in to Pahrump and to Nye County and to Southern Nevada and the state of Nevada? Am I just going to be a person that bitches about the problems, yells fire, complains, or am I going to do something to try to help? And I thought, you know what? We all need to, myself included, quit bitching as much as we bitch and start doing something to help solve some of the problems around here. And so that's exactly how I'm going to be approaching this next year. What are the problems? I'm going to be reporting what the problems are, how I see them, the issues of the day, the issues of the week, the month. I'm going to give my opinion. That's what our First Amendment's all about, is speaking up on our soapbox and telling you how we see it. But I also want to approach this from how can we solve it. And when I mentioned the dinners around the Christmas time, that's exactly what I began doing. Is I and a few people that I organized, we put on a Christmas dinner designed for us, people that were without family in the area during the holidays, but with an emphasis on getting homeless people in there, getting people that are down and out to come, and we were going to share our dinner with them, and it was quite successful. It was held at the Central Valley Baptist Church, and it was standing room only there for a while, and we ran out of food. Well, we had plenty of desserts. I put on a few pounds this Christmas season, like I suppose most of you guys did. But anyway, it was a success, and I intend to do that into the future. I think that that if we're going to get our taxes under control, if we're going to get smaller government, more efficient government, then what has to take place then is we can't sit back on our laurels and let the government employees solve the problems. We have to be willing to step up and form community groups and address a lot of the problems that the government is doing for us. And so that is going to be something that I'm going to be pushing for. I got myself in a little, I feel so, I guess I'm going to say I feel badly for some of the comments I made in writing and in public having to do with the fire department and having to do with the BLM, because you have to remember that the people that work for these government agencies, they are our neighbors, and they take orders from upstairs. They try to do a job, and so anytime that I'm harping about shrinking government and going a different direction, it affects them. And if we start talking badly about a particular agency or somebody, it affects their family. It affects their job security, because frankly, if people start complaining, then they look at some scapegoat to get rid of. And I most certainly do not want to cause the loss of anybody's jobs if it can all be possible. But frankly, when you shrink government, that's exactly what happens. Which ties me into another suggestion that I'm going to be pushing for this year, is that the area residents here, the businesses in this area, begin networking on what jobs are available. If somebody does lose their job, how does a person slip into another job? Years ago, I read a book about jobs, and what it said was that that the vast majority of jobs never hit the help wanted ads. They are all word of mouth, a friend of a friend, because, and when you think about that, this is very logical. Your boss needs somebody to come in and fill in a particular job. You know somebody from either a place you worked out in the past, or just from the type of person that you know they are and how hardworking they are in their education level, that they could slip into that job. So you go to your boss and you recommend this relative of yours, this friend of yours, this acquaintance, neighbor, whatever, that they fill the job, and that's how most of the jobs get filled. Well, unfortunately, there's a lot of people out there that get left along the wayside because they just don't have anybody promoting them for a job. and it hurts people. These people need jobs just like the rest of us do. Now the valley here is made up of a lot of people that are retired, and a lot, so they're not really looking for a job other than maybe something part-time. But the young families, they need to support their families. They have mortgages, they have car payments, they have all the things us older folks had when we were their age, and it's extremely expensive for them to raise these kids. So I want to start some type of networking program where if you know of a job, then you either post it at my site, Tilting a Windmill, which can be found on Facebook, or we'll set up another site and we'll network so these people, so whatever jobs are available here in the town and in the county here, get absorbed by the people that live here in an orderly fashion. The employers get matched for people that they need, and it helps everybody else. So that's one way we can solve that problem. But what I began to talk about with the people from the fire district and the people or fire department and the people from the BLM is I have pushed hard for the BLM to leave us alone here in Pahrump and Nye County and go away, and we want to manage the county ourselves. So where would this BLM guy get a job? Well, if the county is managing the lands, then they're going to need somebody that knows how to manage the land, and so it would be a natural fit for these people that were working for the federal government would slide in and work for the county, and the same way with the fire department. If we were to go a private route on the fire department, where instead of the county or town of Pahrump owning a fire department, that we subcontracted it out to a private entity, which by the way, they're all over the United States. There's towns of 200,000 people that don't have a town operated fire department. It's all volunteer or it's a private company. There's volunteer fire departments that work fine, but where does this fire worker get a job? Well, there comes the networking. Now, unfortunately, with all the talk and the about what's going to happen to the town employees and what was going to happen to the fire department that I and others have been harping about, we've lost, I believe, 4 firemen here in Pahrump that went to Las Vegas and went to work over there because they didn't want to wait around and find out if there was something going to happen to them. So going forward, it should be about solving problems and but approaching them. The business of I've mentioned this before. At least I've written about it a lot of times. The former chairman of the town board, who was a real thorn in a lot of people's rear end, used to say on a regular basis that government is a business and should be run by a business. Well, government is not a business. Government is really a luxury you have. You don't want to get out and do something, so you hire people to do it for you, and they organize it for you. But what happens is it grows and expands, and it seems like a government is like a malignancy, that you can start off with 10 people, and if you don't pay attention, they've moved their nose, I call it getting their nose into areas where they shouldn't be, into other areas, and now they need an 11th person, a 12th person, and before you know it, you have 20 people working for the government. Now, with the recession that came and how badly it hit our county, actually USA Today came out the other day with a statistic that said we are the poorest county in the state of Nevada. Nye County is, and so with that size and with the tax space shrinking, we just couldn't afford the luxury. And over the last few years, as the recession deepened, it's starting to recover now, but it didn't for a long time. We were losing county jobs and town jobs, I believe. And what I find amazing is that everything seems to be the same. The parks are going fine. The fire department's been going fine. The cemetery has been going fine. The different areas that the town took care of and the areas that the county took care of, the roads, and I don't hear of anything not really getting taken care of as an emergency situation. Now, because of the funds, we do need road. We obviously have a lot of road issues here, but that too can be approached from a cooperative basis, where we start insisting that the county designate where any road work is going to be done, where any repair is going to be done, and what we the people want done, not just what the county decides what's done. This all should be coming directed from the public, not from the county. So we'll move into that later on this year too. This YouTube broadcast, as I mentioned to you folks last year, and I probably got a little bit too ambitious, my intent is to have a TV program here in Pahrump and possibly in Las Vegas, carried there too, covering, because I'm going to be covering southern Nevada issues. I probably got ahead of myself a little bit, but what I'm going to try to do is each week I'm going to have a YouTube presentation, something that goes over what I've been thinking about, what I've uncovered in the meetings I've gone to, what the issues are, and it'll be probably from a different perspective than you're going to be reading in the newspaper or seeing on the Pahrump, the Pahrump TV stations here. It's going to be my perspective, from what I call the peanut gallery, and so that'll be fun too. What's another issue we have going on as we enter into 2015? Well, as you know from the last election, school districts and everything are crying for money. Here in Nye County School District, they said they need millions of dollars to fix the roofs on buildings, to shore up infrastructure. The buildings are crumbling around the foundations. But that's just an exaggeration of the issue, because I haven't seen a building topple over and we haven't had a roof blow off. We haven't had anything of that. I'm sure there's some issues that need to be dealt with. But I read something and I want to pass that on to you because I think it's alarming. And it is that nationwide, colleges are reporting that students entering into their freshman classes are reading at a 7.5 grade level. In other words, halfway through the 7th grade of public education is what they're reading at. And I find that absolutely alarming, that we send these kids to school, they get the grades, they obviously got enough grades to get into college, good enough grades, yet when they get to college, those so-called good enough grades, they're not even reading at a 12th grade level, they're not reading at 11th grade level, they're not reading at a freshman and high school level, they're reading at a first-year junior high school level. And that's something that really needs to be addressed, and education is going to be something I'm going to be digging even deeper into. I'll probably begin attending some of the school board meetings and raising my concerns there, because one thing we should demand is we're paying the taxes. We should demand that we get what we pay for, and getting an education where kids are at grade 7 reading level when they're seniors is not what we're paying for. I want to take a few minutes here now, and I want to go over the most recent meeting I went to, which was on Monday, and it was, the agenda's right here. It's called the Nye County Water District meeting, and there's a group of about, I think there's 6 people on there was 6 people on this particular committee. Now these committees, these people aren't getting paid anything. These are volunteers that put in to tell the county that, hey, I want to help out with this issue. And the water, as I mentioned, is our right now it's the most glaring issue. So this committee has been meeting over the past year and forming, I'm going to show you here, it's pages and pages and pages of ideas that they came up with on what we can do in Basin 162, which is the water basin that we're in. It's labeled, there's a map and it shows all the basins. We're here in southern Nevada, we're Basin 162 here in Pahrump. And what can be done to prioritize, and then what's going to happen to this list is it's going to be taken to the Water Governing Board, which is another board, and they're going to look it over, and I suppose eventually it's going to get before the Board of Commissioners, and then they'll decide how to fund any of these issues, or, But what we started off with at that meeting, I'm telling you, this meeting started at 9 o'clock in the morning, And it was dark out when I got home. We broke for about an hour lunch, but it was on and on because there's a lot of items here. But what they did is they took 11 pages worth of items, and they broke it down into, they started off, they wanted a top 10 list, but they broke it down into a, I think it was a top 11 or top 12. And I'll go over some of these for you here. Let's take a minute here. Education's one of them. How do we educate everybody here about the seriousness of the water situation, and what conservation methods can people take to help save some water? And these were all voted on, and the education one, there was a 6-0 vote in favor of making that into the top list. It's things like educating a farmer. What crops, if you're going to farm, because there are active farms here, how can you farm? What type of crops should you be farming that best utilize the water? Now, one gentleman that got up before the board there, he actually has a farming operation right smack dab where those houses were running out of well water. And but his is a different type of operation than just open field farming, where you plant the crops like your garden at your house, and you water it, where the water, most of it evaporates into the air, but your plants get some of it. His is all in the greenhouse operations, and he recycles the water, and so he doesn't use near half his water allotment, his water rights, and so he was alarmed that if we're going to be talking about farms, then there are ways to farm and still have jobs in the valley here related to farming, but it doesn't have to be so water intensive. The water, one of the things that come out on the educated people, we're using people in their houses that are not using that much water actually. It's just a couple hundred gallons a day is actually most people's water use. You take showers, run a couple loads of laundry, what have you. It's probably not even that. There's not that much water that a person's using inside the house. It's the uses outside the house, like washing your car, watering your lawn, watering your trees, your shrubs, and that, where the water goes away. And so how do we salvage more water, save more water? Another issue that came up, okay, we have about 50,000 acre-feet of water rights in Basin 162 where there's no water for them. I might have covered this in a past article here, but I'm going to go over it briefly here. Way back when the state designated out water rights, and here in the Pahrump area, the Nye County area, they gave out about, 5 times more water rights on paper than what actually there's water underneath the ground. Now, maybe at that time, back before when all the farming was just started, there was enough water out here to justify that many acre-feet of water. But with decades of overuse through farming, and now the community growing up to close to 40,000 people, that excess water has all been used up, and we're in the critical situation we're in now. But what do you do with these water rights? I mean, you got somebody that's got 10 acre-feet of water, and right now, an acre-foot of water, if you see, it's like real property. Water rights are like your car or your your TV set or any other item you own. You can sell these water rights and move them. There's a process where I could take, if I had 10 acre-feet of water, I could decide to sell 5 of them to somebody else, and they can be actually removed from me to another piece of property. This is the process they go through. And yet, even with these water rights, if we want to move them around, there's still no water for them. And there's big utilities here that are sitting on, banking on thousands of, in a sense, acres of on paper water rights. I guess for, they'd plan on future expansion or future development. But the water has never been there. It hasn't been there for a long time. But they still have a vested interest. You can't just go tell that person legally that we're not going to let you use your water rights, because that gets into areas of eminent domain, where if, for instance, our county or the state would say, I'm going to take your 20 acre feet of water away from you, then the way eminent domains always work is that then the government has to pick up the tab. Now, one guy at the meeting the other day that's looked into it said we're sitting on about $150 million worth of water rights that can't be used. So if the government was just to come out and say, well, we want to get rid of the water rights, where are we going to get $150 million to pay these people for their water rights, and so we can retire them? We don't have 15 million, let alone 150 million, to deal with something like that. So there has to be other ways that you can get rid of the water rights, and that's what's going to be being worked on for one of the water issues. Anyway, retire water rights was one of the issues, and it got a 3-3 vote, and which means that it just died. It didn't go anywhere. I guess people didn't like that idea. So going on, another issue that came up that was failed, that they talked about, was to remove turf and grass that people have got, like your landscaping, and turn your place back into a more natural desert setting. Yeah, that's I've got thousands of dollars worth of landscaping at my place. I guesstimate about $40,000, and I'm just going to go ahead and tear that up because, well, you know, they made a mistake and they told me I had 2 acre feet of water, but now they want to take it down to where I can only use enough to take a bath and do my wash, and I'm supposed to let all my trees die and tear up my grass, and I guess, I don't know. But anyway, I'm glad that one died. One issue, this issue here, the next one I want to mention, go ahead and sit down if you're standing up, because if you live here, you're probably going to blow through the ceiling, because it's not a very popular issue at all. It's called metering of the wells. What they want to do is put a meter on your well, and then you'd be able to determine how much water usage you have. Well, people brought up in discussions I've had with other people who've lived in other areas that when you start metering wells, that's the first step in somebody telling you that you got to reduce your water, or they're going to take it away from you, because now they have proof that you're using too much or what you are using. So people are really suspicious about this. You know, maybe it's a conspiracy theory that wouldn't really hold out if we were to get into that, but you know, there's about 8,500 lots here in Pahrump that need to go bye-bye because there's not enough water for them. So one of the things they want to do with the lots that do have water on them, like mine or yours if you have a well, is to figure out how much water you're using. There are, I think, 40 wells that they use for test wells in the water district here. But one meant, you know, where they go and they can measure but try to determine whether the water level is dropping in that area or rising in that area, what it's doing. But according to some testimony at the meeting, that those wells are not located in good areas. They don't give you a really representative of what's going on. Water actually levels go up and down depending upon what season it is. Right now they're pretty high, so my 83.5 feet of water is probably the highest it's going to be because it's in the middle of winter right now. But in the summer that would drop down as there's less water flowing, there's no snowpacks and so forth recharging. But that one passed 5-1. It's going to be carried to the future. Existing development agreements is another issue that brought up. We have a lot of, on paper again, agreements. When people want to develop property, they apply for, you know, they've taken a huge, you know, big lot, acres and acres of property, and divided it down into individual housing lots, or maybe it's a commercial building that they want to develop there, and they go before the planning department and the water district, and they go to all these committees to get approval on the development plan they want. And those development plans, they may not be developed right now, but most of them extend up to 2025, which is about 10 years from now. And so they're there, they've been approved, and the people could conceivably start building on them. So they wanted to address that and bring it back to the table and renegotiate them and what have you. And that particular item passed 4-2. So that's going to be something that's going to be forwarded on. Is that some way to reopen these existing development agreements and try to do something about it. Let me see what else I got here. Quick notes. Okay, growth control. That's another issue that was brought up. How do we control growth in the valley here? The latest master plan that I saw had it designated that I think we could get for about another 50 to 100,000 people is kind of what they are kicking around of how many people they can visualize being in the valley here when the whole valley is developed out. And here we go. I mean, we're sitting at 38, 39,000 people with no water now. When I say no water, I'm kind of rambling here a little bit. The recharge rate, if we're the 20,000 acre feet of water that's being recharged each year into the aquifer here is being gobbled up by the existing houses. We're over allocated right now with the existing wells that are out there. There's not a drop of water on paper to allocate out to another house. Even though they're still building houses, there isn't really the water to justify it. So it's I'm telling you people, this is the mess that we're dealing here. The next item that brought up, and this is one that a lot of people that have wells want, but of course the committee did not see it our way. It would be to grandfather in existing wells, and meaning that on into the future, if I needed to repair my well, replace the well, or whatever, that nobody's going to try to stop me, and maintain my 2.2 acre feet of water that I'm allocated. Well, that one failed 2-4, so the committee didn't pass on that as being a priority, and I'm sure this one's not going to go away, because people have dug in deep. I mentioned the Private Well Owners Association, which if you're not a member of, and you have a well, you might want to take a look at that. You can go to my Tilting a Windmill Facebook page, and I've got information on there from last week, I believe it was. That was the last meeting that I went to for that organization, and you can join up at $60 a year, and it's a nonprofit operation. There's no money being made by anybody. The fees are just going to for education of the members and for addressing legislative issues and trying to lobby and save our wells. That's basically what it boils down to. Okay, what's the next issue here? They combined a couple issues together, and it had to do with flooding issues, where how do you go about dealing with flooding? And we don't get very much rain here. We get, I think historically we get 4 inches of rain here in Pahrump per year, but the last couple of years it's been way less than that, maybe an inch or two. So, but when it does rain, anybody who lives here knows, it floods. I mean, the water has nowhere to go. And so how do we retain that water? What can we do to keep it from just drying out in the just evaporating away? And is there a way that we can reclaim it? Is there retention pools ponds that we could put in? And that's something that passed six to nothing, because that is something that they're going to be looking into. How to retain water, how to retain runoff, how to retain, it's retaining what you have. Not only should we be conserving what's in the ground, but how do we hold on to and possibly recharge back into the ground that water that's already been pumped out. Merging the lots together, that was something that was brought up, where you take lots that are now, say, 1 acre lots, and you start merging them together into 5 acre lots, and allowing one home site for that. That's something that was mentioned. And I don't remember if they voted on that one, or if that was just something I wrote down on my notes here. So I'm remiss on that one. I'll have to get back with you on that one. One idea I thought was interesting that came out was a plan that, okay, let me back up here a little bit. The people who's out in the south end whose wells dried up, and this has been in all the newspapers, I'm sure if you're local here you've heard this, but since this YouTube goes out nationwide, you know, some of you people in other areas may not know what's been going on. In order to maintain your water rights, according to state law, you're supposed to be using them in some meaningful manner. Now, there's legal terms for that. Off the top of my head, I can't remember what it's called, but it's you have to prove that you're actually using those acre feet, or conceivably you could lose them. And so there's been people, big developers. One over from the Las Vegas area is involved out there on the south end where these wells have been going dry, and it's called a focus group. And I guess basically what they are is an investment group that holds that property out there for future development. I suppose they wanted to, sometime in the future, be able to build houses out there, and they sit on a lot of these water rights. They have these water rights, and so what they did is they went and found somebody that was willing to farm their land for them, and then put a crop in. Now, this shows you how dumb this is. I mean, the person that's out there whose water went dry, his water well went dry, took pictures, and they actually had the news from the local TV channel 46 out there. It was cold. I'm talking, it was below freezing out when we had our cold spell. And these wells, the wells out there were pumping full bore on this farmland. If you can picture this, these big wheels, they're like a wheel that they roll, and they're irrigation wheels, and they go across the entire field, and they move them and water it and move and water. Well, these were parked in one location for, I guess they haven't been moved, and they were in disrepair. Valves were broken on them, and when the video was being shot, the water was shooting 100 feet into the air, so maybe higher than that, from these things, not doing anything, just shooting out, because they have probably a meter on it, and they could then claim that, well, we were using the water to farm a winter crop, because that's what they claim. This guy farming, he's got a winter crop out there that he's putting in. Well, I don't know. It's just a farce, and all it is an attempt to, from this focus group, to hold on to their water rights. And how do we stop them from doing that? Well, thank God the state water engineer, he told these homeowners, there's nothing I can do to stop somebody from using the water if they have water rights that are older than where your development came in here. They have a right to use that water, but what they don't have it's against the state law to waste water. And so I guess there's an investigation being opened up on that. But I didn't see any crop. I actually drove out there to take a look at it. I thought, I'm going to go out there and look at this for myself. And I didn't see any crop rising out of the ground. I saw a big bunch of mud, and where it was still wet, because I guess after it hit the news, because I went out the day after it was on the news, they hurriedly shut these things off, and then they claim that they're going to be repairing them. Well, okay. But anyway, they're just blowing water up into the air. It's evaporating, and while they do that, what happens is, this is a huge parcel of land. I believe it's 198 acres that was being watered on. So with all of these huge wells on it pumping water, it creates, I guess, a coning effect, and literally sucks water from any wells in the surrounding area around it. And that's what's happening to these people. They just drew them right down. But one of the interesting, maybe this is karma, maybe this is a divine intervention that came about. One of the homes right there is owned by a famous radio personality by the name of Art Bell. And Art Bell has been, he's not on the radio now, but he had a program that was reaching millions of people for years, and everybody knows Art Bell, probably nationwide, they've heard the name. And so Art Bell was on that news broadcast too, and he was not too happy about it, what was going on. And when somebody of his stature is on the news, it gets the state's attention. And I think that's why the state moved as fast as they did to start saying, well, we really want to solve this issue and everything. Is because now they have a national personality not just me, a retired guy, or you watching this, somebody that's working for a living. They had somebody that's very well thought of and popular across the country that he's raising hell about it. So of anybody probably in the valley here that this could have happened to, it was Art Bell. I mean, I almost think it's some type of divine intervention. So one of the plans that came out from one of the guys that came to the meeting was, how about if we have what's called water banking? And how water banking would work was, say you had 30 acre feet of water, but you just weren't in any position to develop it right now, but you didn't want to lose your ability to use that water in the future. So what the plan that he put out is that if you've got 30 acres, you put 20 acres of that in this bank that's not going to be developed. I guess it just sits there, and you're allowed to keep the rights to the other 10 acres. This would be on a 3-to-1 ratio into the future. You don't have to prove you're using them or anything. It's just that if you happen to have inherited a piece of property over here and you were living in Las Vegas or California and you thought about retiring here, that you didn't have to come up with some scheme like these farmers have to just waste water just so that you can maintain your water right. I thought that was a good idea, and that one actually passed, and that's something they're passing on. You know, the issues are, you know, I don't know how you can really come up with, I'm going to say this right now, I don't know how you can really come up with a top 10 list, but I guess if it goes to the old adage that if you want to eat an elephant, you just do it piece by piece. You know, you cut off a piece and eat it, because you can't eat the whole elephant at one sitting. But there's really so many issues. Okay, here's one that came up there. Study the carbonate aquifer. Now, what is a carbonate aquifer? Okay, evidently the aquifer that I've been talking about here that has a 20,000 acre feet of recharge every year, and where all of us are drawing our water from, is a close to the surface aquifer. But way down somewhere, I guess, I don't know, thousands of feet down there, there's another larger aquifer that has water in it. Nobody really knows what's down there. I guess maybe the reason they know that it's there is that somewhere they drilled into it at some point in time. But anyway, evidently it's down there, and study it. And I don't know how you study it. You know, whether you poke a bunch of holes in the ground and see what's down there, or I don't even know how they come about this. But that was one thing. Well, maybe we can start drawing from a different level of water. It sounds kind of harebrained to me, but it was something that was thrown out there. And it really gets to you know, actively managing our area here. Nobody that's independent-minded like myself and you know, believes in, you know, live and let live, really appreciates people coming in and saying, well, we have to somehow manage what you have, manage what resources are here, manage. But it really does get down to that, whether you have a government telling you to manage it, or you're doing it voluntarily yourself or in your own neighborhood. There's no magic wand that we can wave out here and reclaim, you know, the water that's been wasted and gone forever from the valley here. It's gone. It was used. It was in cotton crops and alfalfa crops from decades ago. But what we can do is take a look at how we, from this point forward, are going to deal with what limited resources we do have, and make sure that for generations into the future that the water is available for people that are going to be living here. I think it can happen. I know that this water crisis that came up with the dry wells is going to help in that regard. How much of a pushback we're going to get from utility companies and developers because they have millions of dollars invested in future growth. If they're greedy and push it, then I suppose we're going to have a war on our hands, because those of us that want to maintain our lifestyle, our rural lifestyle here, are not going to sit back and have that destroyed so that somebody can come in here and pop houses, like they do in California or other big metropolitan areas right on top of each other, and put another 50,000 or 100,000 people here just so they can, in a sense, scrape the profits off and go somewhere else. It's that I can tell you right now is not popular at all with the populace here. It's not popular at any meeting I've gone to, and yet those people that are the millionaires that have all this developments, they have the property, they have the water rights, they have infrastructure in place right now. They are going to fight back, I suppose. So are we going to be able to come together going forward into 2015? Well, this meeting, I guess, was the first of more that will happen over the next year, and I'll continue to report on it and keep you abreast of what was proposed. I don't even think I went over all 10 of these, but I think I gave you a good idea of what's going on. They took 11 pages, in the agenda. You can see how they're broke down. Can you see that? I don't know if you can see that or not. But and whittled that down to 11 or 12 items that are going to be forwarded on to the Water Governing Board. We have all these boards here that that everybody meets at, and I might add one thing to that. One of the complaints that's, and I think it's a valid complaint, is that these boards, many of them have existed for 7, 8 years now, and really nothing was ever done. They went and met, they kicked ideas around, but they never really came together with a water management plan or any ideas at all. They just continued to meet. I'll tell you one criticism I have, and if anybody in the county is watching this, is that those boards, people believe, and I'm talking not just one, I'm talking about a lot of people I've talked to, that they're too heavily represented on them by utility companies, real estate people, developers, and so forth, and that there's not enough just private well owners or just average Joes out there that are on these boards. And some of the boards have the same people on them. They sit on the Water District Board, they sit on the Planning Board. They sit on these different boards, and it's almost like they're keeping a thumb, trying to control what's going on so that they don't get affected in the pocketbook. But that's really is a greedy way of looking at life. Sure, you have a lot invested, but so do we. Those of us that are retired, those of us on fixed income, the retired people here, the Valley has 9,000 veterans living here. So people that are have been fighting for you while you sat back here and developed property. If you're one of these developers or one of these utility company executives that happen to be stumbled across my little YouTube here and are watching it, you're going to have to come off your high horse a little bit here. You're not going to be allowed to destroy the nature of this valley for your own end. You might be sitting on those boards now, but the political pressure is going to be there into the future that a more representative way of approaching this is the way to go. I don't have much more to say, folks. This is, like I say, the first of 2015. I kind of ran over some ideas my brain's been working on, and in fact, I haven't really written that much in the last week or so because I've really been taking the time to reflect on where do I really want to go in my efforts to, help you become more educated in the issues, help myself in that regard, and really how we can move forward as a community and solve these problems here. We have, the problems are big, but just because they're big doesn't mean they can't be solved. But it's going to take all of us jumping in and doing it. And before I end here, I wanted to thank Amy Nelson and God, I can't remember all the names of the people that were involved for helping me out with the dinners that I had, and who seemed really receptive to helping me out going into the future here. We're talking about putting a committee together and coming up with a layman's solution to problems, I guess. But anyway, I'm just rambling here. I'm going to get off here now thanks for listening, and thanks for watching the YouTube. You know, feel free to come over to Facebook and take a look at what I write, what I'm covering there, and chime in. You know, send me a message at that site. You know, tell me what direction, something I should be looking into, because I'm going to be your I guess unofficial peanut gallery reporter and newscast service here. Don't put that on any door or no, I don't have a business license or anything for that. But that's what I'm going to be doing. Anyway, this is Dwight Lilly with Right Talk. Until next time, bye.